I'm not gonna lie, this is coming out way better than I thought it would. Maybe there's something to this art block thing. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that is brought up a lot in the art world, right? And this is art block. We've all dealt with it. If you don't know what that word necessarily means, it's the same as writing block, where you just can't think of what to draw, but you really do want to draw, but nothing's coming to your mind. So there's a lot of solutions out there, and I'm going to give you one, all right? I know the title said that this was the solution, but you know, there's multiple. We know this. So when it comes to me, I'm a figure lover, right? So I draw figured, stylized figures, pinups, all those things. This is what I like. So when I'm struggling to figure out designs, what I'm going to turn to is figure drawing. Now, the reason I like figure drawing as a way to get over art block is because you don't have to think about what you're drawing, essentially, right? You're drawing from a model, so you have your reference right in front of you, and you can just go from there. So if you can see here, what I'm doing is I am going through some poses. I have the video off to the side. I don't own the content, so I can't share with you guys, but you guys can see me drawing it here. And I'm just drawing these poses, and then just really quick, I'm really aiming for that gestural drawing. So I want it loose, shape-based, motion-based, right? I want to show some of that action and liveliness. And then I'm just gonna take them, shrink them to the side, and move on to the next one. The video I was doing just kind of focused on some 1 minutes, some 2 minutes, and then the last one is like a 5 minute or something like that. The site that I use for this is on Vimeo. It is called Croquis Cafe. If you guys don't know about that one, it used to be free. It's a paid site now. So if you guys want to check that out. So this one's going to be a little bit of a longer video and kind of a steady video here, but I really wanted to take you through the process of how I would overcome art block. So I didn't want to kind of edit this together and make it any kind of like funky video, and then all of a sudden I have a beautiful picture and you're like, I don't understand where the hell that came from. So I'm taking you fully through what is happening here. So you can see here, I was on my first figure drawing session. They were 20 minutes each. I was kind of hoping that this first one was going to be one and done. I was going to find something, but it wasn't. Now, what I'm looking for generally here is to end up with a gesture that I like, and I want to then take further. And when I say take further, is not just like finish it and make an anatomical study and, you know, beautiful shading and stuff, because that stuff looks cool. That has its place. If that's what you want to do, you can do that. But for me, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to work on my stylization. I'm trying to open myself up to kind of let go of some of the anatomy that I had hammered into my head and to experiment a little bit. So what I'm looking for is a gesture that kind of gives me some ideas of something that I can use to then further make a drawing. So like what I'm saying is, like, essentially I want a gesture that's going to inspire me to want to draw, and already took most of the guesswork out of it because art block is stopping me, right? In this situation, I don't know what to draw. And I'm kind of taking the guesswork out of it by using poses, by using models. This is why I highly recommend figure drawing, because even if you don't want to take it to the next step that I'm going to take it, it's going to get you drawing either way. And just kind of like having that looseness about yourself and being able to draw when you need to, it's a really good skill to have and a really good tool in your toolkit. So I moved on to my second video. You can tell it's the second video because I used purple. But so I just wasn't happy with my gestures from the first one. I didn't really feel any of them kind of telling a story. Maybe I wasn't loose enough. So I went on to another one, another 20 minutes down, right? And I do want to kind of say, as I'm talking about time, is don't rush this process. If you have art block and you got no ideas, there's no reason to rush it because you're not going to get to an end result anyways, right? So have fun with the process here and let yourself experiment. Now, if you guys saw the beginning of this video, this pose might have some similarities to something coming up, but we'll see what happens there. So again, I'm just kind of finishing up a couple of the 2-minute poses here, and then we have that 5-minute just to kind of round us off. And what I'm really trying to do with this one is I didn't feel loose enough, so I'm going as loose as I can. I don't care if the figures are long. I don't care if they look completely like shapes or if they don't even really read as humans necessarily, as long as it looks like a decent figure with some sort of action motion going on. So my figure drawings are all done now, and I have them laid out before me. What I'm going to start doing is I'm going to pull some that interest me, and I'm going to delete the other ones that don't. Well, I'm not really deleting them, I'm just hiding the layer, don't worry. But so what I want to do is just kind of analyze. These are the 3 that stuck out to me. This one was a close second. I did really like that pose, and I could kind of see using that one in the future. So I saved it. Again, don't worry. But this was the pose that I decided on. I just kind of had like some fun ideas in my head. I've really been like watching a lot of Phil Tomato's videos, who I talked about in the style video. So if you guys haven't checked out the style video, go ahead and check that one out, because you're going to notice a lot of those influences coming through here. And so I kind of wanted to play with it. So I took this pose, and I'm going in with the idea of I want heavily stylization. So I don't care about long or elongated torsos, or, same for the legs, or whatever it is. I'm really just looking for interesting shapes that I think portray a really good story. So you can see here, I'm kind of cleaning up my pose a little bit. Now, line work was kind of my main focus with this one. So just a heads up right now, I probably redo the line work at least more than 5 times. I don't know, it might be more, but this was the phase of exploring and letting myself really just kind of like feel it out and let the pose kind of come out to me a little bit too. So you want to kind of, sometimes if you're feeling that inability to kind of think or draw, sometimes just mess around. Like, I think that's something that we lose, is we kind of get scared to just draw and like let it be bad and just kind of shoot off the top of our head, and just like whatever we put down, we put down. And sometimes it's important that even if you produce a really, really, really crappy drawing, that you put something down, and then you move on to your next day, and you might notice that you have moved on from your art block, but you just had to get that bad drawing out, or just something out, right? So again, I'm exploring the pose here, making my stylization choices, kind of thinking of my shape design. How do I want the composition? All this stuff, right? I'm starting to like it. What I'm doing here is I'm just gonna kind of experiment real quick. So I have the head tilted and kind of hiding behind the arm and the shoulder in that picture. I just kind of wanted to see really quick what it would look like if I tilted the head the other way. And when I first looked at this, I didn't like it, but actually just looking at it right there, I did kind of like it. So maybe that's an idea for me to go back on one day. Another thing I wanted to try, again, I'm in my like figuring it out phase, shortening the torso a bit. It looked long to me, but I didn't know if I liked that longness or not. So I tried it out short. Did it look okay? I think so. I think I could have made it work, but I really wanted to push myself, and I made myself go with that longer torso. So now I switched to some new brushes that I have here. So again, another thing, if you guys are digital, something that might really help you out in terms of breaking that art block is to kind of force yourself to use a new tool. And this can be traditional too. Like maybe you have some pastels lying around that you've never used. Break them out and just experiment, see what happens. So I had some brushes that I've literally never made anything with yet. Got a brush pack here. And I started my first pass of my actual line work, right? Well, what I did before was kind of the sketch breakdown. And now I'm doing my first pass of line work. So I'm figuring out shapes, positions, and just because I had a sketch of where I kind of figure some stuff out, you're gonna see I make a lot of changes along the way. So don't ever feel like you have to settle for one thing here. Now, something big when I was doing this pose is that I really like the way that the feet overlapped with each other. I thought that was really cool, but the placement didn't feel quite right to me. It felt something was off. So I do mess around with the feet a lot, making them bigger and kind of spreading them out a little more. And another thing I wanted to do was I kind of wanted to mess around with doing like a gestural hand motion, because like hands statically are boring, right? I mean, it just looks boring. So doing something where you have like a finger sticking out or multiple fingers sticking out, or they're doing something crazy, while it's not like necessarily natural, it's going to be much more interesting to your viewer if you add something like that, right? It's kind of a little storytelling element. Now, what I just added in here is the bane of this whole drawing process that I had. I wanted to sneak in a smile coming out from the shoulder, but this pose just would not use that, right? So sometimes you got to realize that, sometimes you can fake it, sometimes you can't. You just got to kind of try and see what happens. So again, I was really just experimenting around and seeing what I liked. So she's pulling and lifting her shirt. What are some of the elements we're seeing? Can we have fun with what's underneath, etc.? Again, I really want to emphasize this might not be your cup of tea. I like these kind of stylized pinup drawings. It's something that I'm just drawn to. Whether I try to move away from it or not, I always come back to it. It's just something about the shapes and the style and the movement, and then like everything that I'm inspired by, every artist that I'm inspired by does this in some form. So it just keeps coming back to me. So your art block solution might be something different. You might be drawing something else, or using different models or using different items, right? So just because this is how I'm doing it doesn't mean this is the only way. Okay, so again, you guys can see, like I said, just because I had that round of sketches and I kind of figured out my pose a little bit, does not mean it's set in stone. So I wasn't liking kind of like the width of like the bottom half of her body. I just felt like there wasn't enough weight down there. It didn't really make her feel seated on the ground necessarily. So I added a little bit more thickness down there. And this is kind of where I started to notice that the feet were a little off, but I really like the animated squishiness of them. So I'm going to keep that, but you're going to see me kind of mess around with different placement of the feet. All right, so I'm thinking about my pose a little bit. This pose is a little interesting, and I don't think necessarily any anatomically correct in any way. So I have her kind of like, her arm is up, right? So my idea is that she's grabbing onto her shirt like this, and we're seeing her look back. The other arm is reaching over and grabbing from like here, but we're seeing a little bit of that motion. So it's this really, really awkward hand position that's kind of pulling through. And again, is it anatomically accurate to have it like this spun around? Maybe not, but I think I end up making it work at the end. But I don't know, what is this, my third or fourth pass around with the line art here? And I'm still just trying to figure out the pose. This is kind of a tricky position. I didn't really have a reference. I've talked a lot about references in my videos, right? But for this one, I just wanted to go in with the idea of imagination, exploring, creativity. So I went in blind, And it's a good thing to do, right? You should practice this every now and then, because like if depending on who you're going to be as an artist, you're not always going to have time to Google something or find that perfect reference. So pushing yourself to be able to do this, make it believable, is going to help you out a lot. Now, this is a big art trick that I don't think many people utilize that much. It's to flip your canvas. If you're working traditional, you can put it in front of a mirror. Same thing. And what this is going to do is this is going to like let you view your picture again with fresh eyes. And you're going to kind of like the mistakes are going to jump out at you. And just like that, the mistake jumped out to me. And like that arm just did not look high enough. It just looked like it was placed wrong. Maybe some torso tweaks in there, or like some head tweaks. I was able to see the head, how it was turning much better from that angle than I was from this angle. I don't know necessarily how that works or why, but it does. So if you guys have that ability, take your picture up to a mirror, flip your canvas with whatever digital software you're working with, and I promise you'll find something. All right, so we're working stylized. So one important thing here is a clear silhouette. So you can see I moved that hand, the one that's like reaching around her body like that. I moved it away from her arm and her like chest area more, so that you have a clear silhouette of what's happening with her like stretched out pinky. And I kind of gave it a little breathing room. Okay, this is going to give us a little more of a clear silhouette and a clear thumbnail. If we were to shrink this too and kind of like look at it from a really small perspective, we can kind of understand still the story. All right, we back to feet adventures here. So again, you know, I'm telling you, I was never satisfied with these feet. But again, I hope you guys are enjoying this process. I of course did speed this up. This was actually about a 3 hour, maybe 3.5 hour total process. So I sped it up for you guys, but like I know this is still kind of going on long, but I wanted you guys to kind of get the real idea of how I go from start to finish. You know, I think that's something that like you don't see a lot of artists kind of show. They don't show the struggle. They don't show the bad stuff. So I really kind of want to be translucent with some of that stuff, especially in a video that's about art block. And I want you guys to see that, like, you know, sometimes it comes out crappy. I ended up liking this drawing for the most part. There's definitely things that I think I would correct, but at a certain point I just had to let myself stop. So again, you know, it's just about that exploration and kind of figuring it out. So again, you guys can see, if you're wondering where all those lines are going, it's the Control-Z, every digital artist's favorite tool. It's your friend. Okay, if you gotta undo, and just keep doing it until you get that line that you love. I ended up kind of settling for a line every now and then, but I would go in and correct it where I could. Unfortunately, this is not something that you can do traditionally, but if you are doing traditional, you know, just draw with a pencil until you're satisfied, and then maybe you could scan it and do a very low value on it. So like really just like lower it down so it comes out nice light gray, and then you can go over with ink. That's something that they used to do back in the day when they had to make some fixes on their drawings. So you guys can see here, like my intention with this was really to just kind of have a very clear, understandable, and just like flowy line work. It's something that like I've really struggled with ever since like art school and coming out with like being hammered with the idea of anatomy and proportions and all that stuff, and eventually it kind of takes the creativity out of you. But you know, in art school they're just trying to teach you it like anything else, right? There's a process to do math. Here's the step by step. Just like I have a lot of process videos too, where I show you guys the proportions, but my main thing is that I tell you guys to kind of take them and make them your own, right? So that's something that I'm also very much in the process of reminding myself about. So definitely, you know, I hope you guys can kind of take these skills and apply them, and they really do help you. And that this isn't just a long video to bore you. But anyways, I'm starting to get to a point where I'm happy with the overall pose and mostly happy with the line art. I do go in and tweak some things later on. But I'm starting to get to a point where I think I could jump into some color. Originally, I wasn't going to go for color in this pose or in this video necessarily, because I just kind of wanted to be about how to battle art block real quick. But I think sometimes, like I said earlier, in order to really efficiently battle art block, you have to kind of push yourself to the end goal. Okay, because like you have, like, there's something stuck in your head essentially, right? And you just got to push through it and like really just get past what is stopping you. Something that always stops me is I am definitely someone that just does a sketch and I move on. I just do a figure drawing session and I move on. I don't even add shading sometimes or something, right? So if I'm struggling with art block, I need to get past the barrier that's stopping me. And sometimes doing a full colored picture, it's something that I don't feel that confident in at all the time. So this is something that I felt like was pretty necessary of a skill to show. Now, I'm borrowing a lot of coloring skills from Phil Tomato. I'll put his link, his Instagram and YouTube in the description below, because I just don't want to, like, you know, completely call this my own here. But what he does is he kind of has the idea of going in and just doing a full fleshy tone. And then from here, if you're working digital, you can lock the transparency, or you can just kind of select that color and then it makes the whole selection. You can see me do it a couple times in here and then I hide it. So that way you can't color out of your lines, because that's going to save you a lot of time. All right. You don't have to worry about, you know, doing any kind of crazy colors. From here, this was a quick process. All right. Like, I just wanted to go in, define some shadows, and that way I could have some fun defining my highlights as well. I feel like when in the coloring process or in the shading process, highlights are the most fun, because they just add that extra something, you know, that little something in there, and they make that picture really pop. So you can see I laid down some quick shadows. I'm thinking about the light sources kind of coming from like up and above a little bit. But, you know, that's something that I don't know if I kind of translated that super strong. Coming up with light sources from my imagination, I'm pretty weak at. All right. I'm admitting a lot to you guys here. I hope you're feeling this, right? We're in this together, I promise. But overall, I think I was able to come up with something relatively believable. And I think just like the figure, you know, I'm just trying to tell a story. I'm just trying to have fun with it. So overall, I think as long as it successfully tells what it's supposed to tell, I think it's good. You know, again, obviously, like, if you're wondering, you know, where do you get some basic ideas of how to do lighting and all that stuff, it just comes from still life studies and well-lit life drawing sessions and all those things. So not just like flat life drawing sessions, which you sometimes will see, but ones that actually have like really nice lighting setups and you get some really nice shadow shapes. You can check out my value study video, a little plug right there for you guys. I mean, that might help you with some shading tips as well. All right, so I don't know if you guys saw while I was doing that little spiel there, but I did kind of come in and do a little line art touch up. So of course, always go in and make the changes that you need to make here, you know, make this something that you're really happy with. I also didn't mention I did change canvas size. You guys probably noticed that we're working in a square now. This is just because, like, you know, if I do want to post this to Instagram later, it's the easiest way to work. So always think about where your work is going to go, right? We always kind of have to think about that compositionally. Composition doesn't just mean what's on the page. It also means the size of the page, right? So always be thinking about how you can kind of make your life easier. So from here, I was just kind of exploring how I can kind of get a little more realism, depth, or energy out of this picture. So messing around a lot with that shirt. I added some cool colors to kind of reflect what's going on in the background. Sometimes adding these elements from the background, it kind of unifies the picture. It makes the whatever you're drawing, in this case I'm the girl, it makes her look like she's actually in that background, not just that I threw in some square of color for no reason. Now here I went brown, and then, well, you're seeing as I go in here right now, I just thought brown was a little too plain Jane for me, so I kind of went in with some purple. And now I'm thinking I might have accidentally done a Team Rocket fan art of Jessie. I mean, I think she wears like the same color cropped shirt and has like a black sports bra on underneath, right? So my bad, but you know what? Sometimes these things sneak in, right? I just kind of like let it sneak in with that crazy hair, of course, too. But anyways, I just really like, for me, the hair was just a loose snake-like shape that I just kind of wanted to let flow around. Now, again, we're back to what I was saying is the bane of my existence. The eyes and the mouth here were killing me. And it's because in my head, I just could not see this angle for some reason. You know, I kept trying. I had to head over to my mirror and I kind of was like staring at myself a bit. But for the most part, I just couldn't get that angle quite right. And I think it's because technically the eye would actually be mostly covered by the shoulder in this pose, but I feel like that's going to take away from my storytelling. So I'm trying to make it work. I need to make it work for myself and get myself happy with this picture. But sometimes there are realities that you need to settle with as well. And one of the things I do eventually settle with is the fact that that mouth doesn't work. So you notice that jump right there. I apologize. I was working on this a little bit without the video recording, but I did film the rest. So a couple things we're going over here. We're getting to the end. All right. So we got some details. I warmed up the line art. So I took off the black and I made it into kind of a warm color. This unifies the drawing a lot. Now going in and just kind of with that transparency layer thing turned on, going in and making some of that line art black again. Just the stuff that I really want to stand out. I might also just go in and make some of it darker and not go straight black again. But you guys probably noticed that before I went in with the black, like it just kind of like sits a little bit better on the page. But I do want it to pop still. So having some black is not a bad thing. Of course, this is a very stylized drawing, so black works really nicely with it. So final touches here, you guys can see I took out the mouth. I kind of added a little bit of blush. Here we're going in with another Photoshop tool that I don't really want to talk about. I don't know if I like this. This is my first time using it. All right, I'm going to admit to it, but we could talk about that one another day. Maybe I'll make some videos about Photoshop tools that I use. If you guys are interested, you can let me know in the comments below there. But we are approaching the end, so I do just want to say thank you guys for watching. Let me know if this was helpful. I do really want to know. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.